Chosen one, stop right there. Do not scroll. Do not move past this moment like it is nothing, because it is not nothing. This is not just another message. This is a divine interruption placed directly in your path at the exact moment you are about to make a decision you cannot take back. God is speaking to you right now about that person, the one who has been on your mind, the one you have been trying to release, the one you have been slowly convincing yourself to let go of. You have been telling yourself that it is over, that the silence means it is finished, that the pain is proof it was never meant to be. But heaven is correcting you right now. God says if you walk away in this moment, you will walk away one step before the breakthrough that has already been set in motion. You did not find this message by accident. Your scrolling was intercepted. Your attention was redirected. This is intentional. Before you go any further, you need to make a decision in your spirit. You need to say within yourself, I will not give up. Not casually, not emotionally, but as a declaration. Because what you are facing is not just a situation, it is a spiritual battle, and your response determines whether you stand or surrender. You have been under pressure, and that pressure has been confusing you. The intensity of what you have been feeling has made you believe that something is wrong with the connection, but God is saying the exact opposite. The intensity is not a warning to leave, it is evidence of significance. The enemy does not invest this level of resistance into something that has no value. Think about what has been happening. Small misunderstandings have turned into major conflicts. Silence has felt heavier than it logically should. Distance has created doubt that keeps repeating in your mind. Emotions have been fluctuating in ways you cannot fully explain. This is not random. This is strategic. The enemy recognized the potential of this connection before you fully understood it yourself. He saw where this could lead, what it could build, what it could become, and because of that, he began working to break it before it reaches that point. You keep asking why it is so difficult, but God is telling you that difficulty is often attached to purpose. This is not just a relationship, this is an assignment, and assignments always come with opposition. The battle you are experiencing is not just about feelings or communication or timing. It is deeper than that. The enemy is not fighting what you feel. He is fighting what this connection will produce in the future. If he can convince you to walk away now, then he never has to face what would have been built if you stayed. That is why the attacks have been so consistent. That is why confusion keeps returning. That is why it feels like something is constantly trying to push you toward giving up. But understand this clearly. If you choose to walk away in this moment, you are not just ending something. You are stepping out of something that God is still actively working on. And if you choose to stay, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it is unclear, you disrupt every plan that was designed to separate you from what God intended. There is something shifting behind the scenes even now. You cannot see it yet, but you will begin to notice signs.
Within a short period of time, clarity will start to form, and you will begin to understand why the resistance was so strong. Nothing about this has been ordinary, and deep down, you already know that. You need to hear this next part carefully, because this is where many people make their mistake. You think you chose this connection, but in reality, there was something deeper guiding it. There was a pull you could not explain, a sense of familiarity that did not make logical sense, a connection that felt significant from the beginning. That was not coincidence, that was orchestration. God placed this connection into your life with intention. He knew the challenges, he knew the misunderstandings, he knew the moments when you would feel like walking away. None of this surprised him, and still he allowed it to happen. Why would he do that if there was no purpose in it? God does not begin something just to abandon it halfway. If he initiates something, he intends to bring it to completion. The real question is not whether God will finish what he started. The real question is whether you will remain long enough to see it finished. Right now, you are standing in a moment that feels like an ending, but it is not an ending. It is a transition that you do not fully understand yet. The silence, the distance, the confusion, all of it is making you feel like the story has reached its conclusion. But what feels like the end is actually a shift between chapters. If you close the book now, you will never see what was written next. God is still writing. He has not stopped. Just because you cannot see movement does not mean there is no progress. In fact, this quiet season has been one of the most active phases, but the work has been happening beneath the surface, where you cannot observe it directly. Hearts are being softened, wounds are being addressed, understanding is being prepared. Things that would have destroyed the connection later are being dealt with now, in silence, so that what comes next can stand on a stronger foundation. You have mistaken silence for absence, but silence does not mean God is not involved. Silence often means He is working in ways that are not visible yet. Think about a seed planted in the ground. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. It looks still, inactive, almost forgotten. But beneath the surface, transformation is taking place. Roots are forming, strength is developing, life is preparing to emerge. If you dig up the seed too early because you think nothing is happening, you destroy the very process that was about to produce growth. That is where you are right now. This connection is in a stage that requires patience. It is not dead, it is developing. It is not over, it is being prepared. The silence has been uncomfortable, and it has made you question everything. You have wondered if you misunderstood the connection, if you imagined the depth, if you were wrong to believe it mattered. But those thoughts are not coming from truth, they are coming from pressure. The enemy has been working in your mind, not just in the situation. He cannot directly destroy what God has established, so he works indirectly by influencing how you see it. He plants thoughts that feel logical. He introduces doubts that seem reasonable. He takes small moments and magnifies them until they feel like proof that everything is falling apart. He makes you believe that the worst interpretation is the correct one. He whispers that the other person doesn't care, that if it mattered, they would have acted differently, that the silence means they have moved on, that you are wasting your time, that walking away is the smart decision. But those are not conclusions based on truth. They are suggestions designed to lead you away from what God is still working on.
The real battle has not been between you and that person. The real battle has been inside your own thoughts. And if the enemy can win there, he does not need to do anything else. Because once you believe the wrong narrative, you will make the decision yourself. That is why this moment is so important. You need to recognize what is happening and refuse to let it control your choice. You're not being asked to ignore reality. You're being asked to see it correctly. Not everything that feels final is actually final. Not everything that looks broken is beyond repair. And not everything that is quiet is empty. There is movement you cannot see yet, and if you hold on just a little longer, it will begin to reveal itself. Chosen one, stay with me. Do not let your focus drift now, because what is being revealed in this moment is the part most people never hear, and because they never hear it, they make a decision they regret later. You have already come this far, and that is not by accident. Something in your spirit is recognizing that this message is not ordinary, that it is speaking directly into a situation you have been carrying silently. And now God is continuing to uncover what has really been happening behind the scenes. The pressure you have been feeling, the emotional exhaustion, the constant overthinking, the feeling that you are the only one holding on. None of that has been random. It has all been part of a deeper strategy designed to wear you down until giving up feels like relief. But God is saying, do not confuse relief with alignment. Just because walking away feels easier does not mean it is right. Sometimes the easiest decision is the one that costs you the most in the long run. You need to understand something clearly now. The enemy studies patterns. He watches reactions. He observes what affects you the most, and then he repeats it until it becomes overwhelming. That is why the same types of issues keep showing up in different forms. It feels like a cycle you cannot break. One moment things seem calm, and the next moment something small triggers a wave of doubt again. That is not coincidence. That is repetition designed to create exhaustion. Because once you are tired enough, you stop fighting for clarity and you start choosing escape. And escape is exactly what the enemy wants. Not because he cares about your comfort, but because he knows what will happen if you stay long enough for God's work to fully unfold. There is something about this connection that carries weight in your future, and if you abandon it prematurely, you step out of something that was meant to shape you, strengthen you, and align you with a purpose that extends beyond what you can currently see. Right now, it feels like you are carrying more than the other person. It feels unbalanced. It feels like you are the one thinking, the one waiting, the one questioning, and that has made you believe that the connection itself is one-sided. But God is saying you are seeing only one side of a process that is happening in two places at once. Just because you cannot see what is happening in the other person does not mean nothing is happening. There are things being dealt with, things being confronted, things being processed that are not visible to you. And if those things are rushed or forced before they are ready, the connection would collapse under the weight of what has not been healed yet. So what feels like delay is actually protection. What feels like distance is actually preparation. And what feels like silence is actually space being created for necessary change to take place.
You have been interpreting everything through what you can observe, but God is asking you to trust what you cannot see yet. Because if you rely only on visible evidence, you will always conclude that nothing is happening, and that conclusion will push you toward walking away. But the truth is, the most important work in this season has been invisible. It has been internal. It has been foundational. And foundations are never built in front of an audience. They are built quietly, steadily, layer by layer, until they are strong enough to support what comes next. If you interrupt that process because it is taking longer than you expected, you do not just end the waiting, you damage what was being built during that time. There is also something else you need to face honestly. Part of your desire to walk away is not just about the situation, it is about self-protection. You are trying to avoid further disappointment. You are trying to shield yourself from more pain. And that instinct is understandable. But not every situation that involves discomfort is meant to be escaped. Some situations are meant to be endured because of what they produce in you. This connection has been exposing things within you that needed to come to the surface. Insecurities, fears, patterns of thinking, reactions you were not fully aware of before. It has been refining you, even in ways that have felt uncomfortable. And if you leave now, you take the pain with you, but you leave the growth incomplete. God is not asking you to ignore wisdom or remain in something harmful. That is not what this is about. This is about discernment. This is about recognizing the difference between a situation that is truly meant to end and a situation that is under pressure because it carries purpose. And the only way to recognize that difference is to look beyond surface-level emotions and pay attention to the deeper pattern. Has this connection consistently drawn you toward growth, even when it was difficult? Has it revealed things in you that needed to change? Has it felt significant in a way that other connections did not? If the answer is yes, then you are not dealing with something ordinary, and ordinary rules do not apply. There is a shift coming, but it will not come through force. It will not come through overthinking or trying to control the outcome. It will come through alignment, through patience, through allowing God to complete what He has already started without interference. And that requires trust, not blind trust, but intentional trust. The kind of trust that says, even when I do not understand everything, I choose not to walk away from what God is still working on. Because understanding does not always come before the breakthrough. Sometimes it comes after. You are closer than you think, but closeness to breakthrough often feels like increased pressure, not relief. That is the part no one talks about. Right before something shifts, everything feels more intense. Doubt gets louder. Emotions feel heavier. The urge to quit becomes stronger. That is not the moment to walk away.
That is the moment to stand still and refuse to make a decision based on temporary pressure. Because if you can hold your position in that moment, you move through the pressure instead of being pushed out by it. So right now, in this exact moment, you have a choice. You can follow what feels easier, or you can remain aligned with what is still unfolding. You can interpret the silence as the end, or you can recognize it as part of the process. You can allow your thoughts to convince you to walk away, or you can take control of those thoughts and refuse to let them decide for you. The decision is yours, but understand that it carries weight, not just for now, but for what comes next. And if you stay just a little longer, if you hold on with clarity instead of confusion, you are going to begin to see signs that everything you thought was falling apart was actually being rearranged. Chosen one, stay locked in. Do not lose focus now. This is the part where most people disconnect, and because they disconnect here, they never understand why everything unfolded the way it did. You have come too far to stop now. What is being revealed in this moment is the layer beneath everything you have been feeling, the part that explains why this connection has stayed on your heart no matter how much you tried to release it. Because if it were truly meant to end in this season, it would have already left your spirit in peace. But it hasn't, and that is not weakness. That is not attachment. That is not you being unable to move on. That is because there is still something unfinished, something unresolved, something still in motion that heaven has not closed yet. You have been trying to force closure where God has not declared an ending, and every time you try to force it, something inside you resists. You try to convince yourself, you try to rationalize it, you try to detach emotionally, but it does not fully work. You may create distance, you may go silent, you may even decide that you are done, but then something pulls your thoughts back again. A memory, a feeling, a moment of clarity, something that reminds you that this is not as simple as you are trying to make it. That is because closure is not something you create by force. It is something that comes when a process is complete. And right now, this process is not complete. God is saying clearly, do not confuse delay with denial. What you are experiencing is not rejection, it is timing. There are elements in this situation that are still aligning, and if everything were to come together before those elements are ready, it would collapse under pressure. You are looking at the current state and assuming it represents the final outcome, but it does not. It represents a stage, and stages change. What feels uncertain now will not remain uncertain forever. What feels distant now will not always feel distant. But if you make a permanent decision based on a temporary phase, you remove yourself from what was meant to unfold next. There is also something deeper you need to recognize now. This connection has been teaching you endurance, not passive waiting, but active endurance. The kind where you remain steady even when your emotions are unstable. The kind where you choose clarity even when confusion is loud. The kind where you refuse to let temporary discomfort dictate a permanent decision. This is not just about the connection itself, it is about who you are becoming through it. Because the version of you that will step into what is coming next cannot be the same version that reacts impulsively, that walks away at the peak of pressure, that gives up when things become unclear. This season has been strengthening something inside you that you will need later. You have been asking for signs, asking for confirmation, asking for something clear that tells you what to do, but God is saying you already have more clarity than you think. The problem is not lack of guidance, it is the noise that has been surrounding it. Fear has been speaking, doubt has been speaking, past experiences have been speaking, and all of those voices have been competing with the quiet knowing that has been inside you from the beginning. That quiet knowing has not disappeared, it has just been overshadowed. But even now, if you become still for a moment, you can feel it. That sense that this is not over, that sense that something is still there, that sense that walking away right now would not feel like peace, it would feel like interruption. And this is where your decision becomes critical, because you are not just choosing what to do externally, you are choosing what to believe internally. Are you going to believe what fear is telling you, or are you going to align with what God has been showing you in quieter ways? Because whatever you believe will shape your next action, and your next action will determine whether you stay in alignment or step out of it. There is movement coming, not imagined movement, not forced movement, but real, observable change. Conversations that seemed impossible will begin to open. Understanding that was missing will begin to form. Things that felt blocked will begin to shift. But this will not happen on your timeline, and it will not happen through pressure. It will happen when the preparation reaches the point where what is being built can finally be revealed. And when that moment comes, it will make sense why everything had to happen the way it did. You will see why the silence was necessary. You will understand why certain things could not move earlier. You will recognize that what felt like distance was actually part of the process of alignment. But you have to remain in position long enough to witness that. If you step out now, you disconnect yourself from what is about to unfold. And it will not be because it was not meant for you. It will be because you chose to leave before it reached you. That is why this moment matters so much. This is not just about patience, this is about timing, and timing determines outcome more than effort ever will. So do not rush to end what God has not finished. Do not let temporary emotions push you into a permanent decision. Do not allow the silence to convince you that nothing is happening. Stay steady, stay aware, stay aligned, because what is ahead of you is not confusion, it is clarity. Not distance, but understanding. Not uncertainty, but confirmation. And when it arrives, it will not feel forced. It will feel right. It will feel settled. It will feel like something that has been building finally reaching the surface. Hold your position, not forever, not blindly, but for now, for this season, for this moment that is still unfolding. Because you are not at the end of this story. You are standing right in the middle of a chapter that has not finished being written yet. And if you can stay just a little longer without letting fear make the decision for you, you are going to see exactly why God told you not to give up.
Chosen one, this is the final part, and you need to hear every word with clarity, not emotion, because what comes now will determine how you move forward from this moment. You have been standing at a crossroads, feeling the weight of a decision that does not feel simple no matter how much you try to simplify it. Part of you wants peace, part of you wants answers, and part of you is tired of carrying something that feels uncertain. But God is not leaving you in confusion. He is bringing you into understanding, and this is where everything comes together. You need to recognize that not every connection is meant to be held on to forever, but not every connection that becomes difficult is meant to be released either. The difference between the two is not always visible on the surface, and that is why so many people make decisions based only on what they feel in the moment. But feelings shift, pressure fades, emotions rise and fall. And if your decisions are built only on those things, you will constantly move in and out of alignment without realizing it. What God has been trying to teach you in this season is discernment, the ability to pause, to observe, to understand what is really happening before you act. Right now, the intensity you have been feeling has been pushing you toward urgency. It has been making you feel like you need to decide immediately, like you need to close this chapter quickly so you can finally breathe. But urgency is not always from God. Many times, urgency is created by pressure, and pressure is often used to rush you out of something before you fully understand it. God does not rush clarity. When He leads, there is steadiness, there is confirmation, there is a sense of direction that does not come from panic. So if your desire to walk away has been coming from exhaustion, from overthinking, from emotional weight rather than clear conviction, then that decision is not coming from alignment, it is coming from pressure. You have also been measuring this connection based on visible effort, on communication, on what you can see and understand in real time.
And while those things do matter, they are not the full picture in this season, because this is not a season of full expression, it is a season of internal work. And internal work is not always visible, it is not always immediate, it does not always look the way you expect it to look, but that does not mean it is not happening. You are being asked to trust a process that you cannot fully track, and that is uncomfortable, but it is also necessary for what is being built. There is something else you need to accept with honesty. Holding on does not mean chasing. It does not mean losing yourself. It does not mean ignoring your own growth or your own peace. It means staying aligned without forcing outcomes. It means allowing space where space is needed, while still recognizing the value of what exists. It means not making a final decision in a temporary storm, because storms pass, and when they do, clarity looks very different than it did in the middle of the chaos. And now hear this clearly, because this is the confirmation you have been waiting for. There will be a moment ahead where things begin to shift in a way you can no longer ignore. It will not be dramatic at first, but it will be clear. A conversation that feels different, a level of understanding that was not there before, a sense of openness that replaces the silence. And in that moment, you will realize that everything you thought was falling apart was actually being held in place until the right time. You will see that what felt like distance was not the end. It was part of the process of bringing both sides into alignment. But that moment requires you to still be present. It requires you to not close the door completely before it arrives. Because once you close something fully, you remove the opportunity for it to open in the way it was meant to. That is why this message has come to you now, not later, not after the decision, but before it. Because you are being given the chance to pause instead of react, to understand instead of assume, to remain steady instead of walking away in uncertainty. At the same time, you are not being asked to stay stuck forever. This is not about endless waiting without direction. This is about recognizing that you are still in a season that has not reached its conclusion, and once it does, you will know. Not through confusion, not through guessing, but through clarity that feels settled, clarity that does not require overthinking, clarity that aligns both your mind and your spirit. That is how you will know the difference between holding on in alignment and holding on out of fear. Right now, you are not in that final clarity yet, and that is why you are being told not to rush your decision. So stand still for now, not inactive, not passive, but steady. Continue your own growth, continue your own path. Do not lose yourself in the process, but at the same time, do not force an ending that has not been confirmed. Let things unfold. Let what is being worked on come to the surface in its time, and when it does, you will not need anyone to tell you what it means. You will recognize it immediately. This is not about holding on forever. This is about not walking away too soon, because too soon can cost you something that was still in the process of becoming what it was meant to be. And if you can remain in alignment just a little longer, if you can resist the urge to make a decision based on temporary pressure, you are going to see why this moment mattered so much. You did not come this far just to leave at the point where things are about to shift. You were brought here to understand, to endure, and to witness what happens when you choose alignment over impulse. And now the choice is in your hands, not forced, not rushed, but placed before you with clarity. Stay or walk away, but make sure that whatever you choose comes from understanding, not pressure, because what is still unfolding in front of you has not reached its final form yet. And if you stay long enough to see it, you will finally understand why God told you from the beginning, do not give up.